Alright, guys, it's that day of the week. It's hair day. At least this time of the month, I must precisely say, because it's the day we retouch my hair. Yeah. So I'm a little early. That's okay, because I always like to come a little early. Sometimes I get fancy, sometimes I keep it simple. Are you talking about? Hi, Super, how you doing? Yeah, Kitty, I see you. Alright, we got the private panel up today, because Leo said she would be on the private panel, so. Alright, so. I was just texting Krista in the background on my phone. She's, she, explained to me that, Blazing Needle said she would be on a private panel without the public one. So, we get the private one open right now. And, today's hair day. So, we're gonna get our hair retouched. So, that's cool. No. So, what are you doing, Red? George Whiteboy says Red Foreman is a... No, that's not an allegation, that's actually truth. Yeah. So is McKinley Cruiser, I think. I think McKinley Cruiser is. I know this Kato, I don't know, but Mary Jane, but... So does Blazing Leo. So does Smickle Cat. So does Skynet. Doesn't mean anything. Now that it's legalized in many of the states, including Connecticut, i.e. controlling Connecticut, finally threw their hands in the air and said, enough of this criminalization of Mary Jane. Since there's so many people using it, it's kind of stupid to illegalize something that people are using, tax the crap out of it, make money. That's what Connecticut's thinking, right? Makes sense, right? It's gonna make money for the state, tax revenue. Why legalize it? Money, 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 money. Anyway. Okay, so it's coming on the private panel. Let me get over to that link. See all the screen. What's actually the first one on the panel here is Blazing Leo. Good morning, how you doing?
Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Doing alright. I said on Wednesday you and Stan were on your channel at the same time I was on my channel, doing talk with somebody else. I don't know who the third person was.
No, well, we went on after. I didn't go on till 10 because I knew your show was going.
Oh, okay.
Unless you went past 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to do that. I knew your show was going, and I didn't want to step on your toes or anything like that. I wish you could have made it. It was a good talk. My brother showed up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Was your brother the one that was the third person on that panel? Because you had another person on the panel. Was you, Stan, CT, and there was another person? No.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry. I forget sometimes if I close that window that it mutes my mic.
Right, you had 3 people on the panel that I could see. You, Stan, and another guy. And you were talking about something. I'm not sure what you guys were talking about, but
No, it was just me and Stan.
okay.
But I mean, I was highlighting people's comments and stuff.
Okay.
But no, it was a really good talk.
Yeah.
So
I know some of the
it would have been great
people.
if you could join. But
Yeah.
I get it. I'm glad Stan did. Stan's a very good guy. He's very knowledgeable of that stuff we talked about. So I'm glad he was able to join.
Well, all I know is me and Skynet had another gaming stream last night, and we did pretty good.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't record the second part of the American Truck Simulator where I was doing off screen. That was kind of like a private journey trying to finish up one of the missions. So I started talking about on stream where basically it got dark and I put into a rest stop, and then for some reason, like I actually slept like 16 hours at the rest stop, and then woke up the next day. It was like 2 in the morning. And I was like stuck. I couldn't figure out how to get out of there because it was dark. So finally, I came back to the game. I said, "Well, since it's just me and the camera, or me and the computer, so I wasn't going live on it or even videoing it, I worked my way through the pitch black scene to get out of the rest stop. So I finally, got back on the road. But of course, my product was a day late. But I did get the stuff to the buyer. The hay. That's what it was hay.
So you guys are playing. You're playing WoW together, right?
Yeah, me and Skynet are playing WoW together. I financed his monthly fees for a few months anyway.
Oh, you financed his?
Yeah.
Oh, that was nice of you.
Yeah, that's fine for me. That's no problem. So, and then of course, everybody's, Skynet to me says, well, maybe we should have a night show tonight. And it was like, I really don't want to do a night show on Wednesdays. I really don't like doing night shows on Saturdays either, because because we have a couple people that come on the night shows that really kind of I don't get along with, and then and we know 2 of them. I'm not gonna give names, but there's just these two people in particular that just has a habit of really. One of them is much more of a regular annoyance than the other one. But I kind of would like to just kind of keep the night shows at bay for a few, maybe once or twice a week, but not like having them on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and then Skynet said maybe even Thursday, and I went, no, that's too many. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that many night shows, especially since the viewership is dropping on the night shows. The subscribers are dropping again. I don't think it's gonna do any good to have many more night shows than what we ever got, because people are not participating. They're leaving.
Yeah, well, Michelle, you can only do what you feel is right. Everything is trial and error. 8.
Yeah.
All right, knock it off.
Right now, the
So,
gaming
I
has
mean,
been doing pretty good. People actually enjoy the gaming. Like.
you know, I've actually talked to some people, and they said that they are enjoying your game streams a lot more than your your other streams. So, I think you're right.
Yeah. Give me the link so I can live chat. This is Krista asking me a question. I thought I did give it to her. You did.
Is she going to join the panel?
Oh yes, I think she wants to know.
Oh, nice.
Oh no, she wants to know what the live stream is. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So let me go ahead because she doesn't know. She didn't because like she comes on the side chat. She doesn't actually because she's doing housework and some tasks in the house at the same time, so she doesn't really have the chance to come on the show. There we go.
Yeah, I get that. You know, she's got a child. You know. And speaking of which, my brand new vacuum came in the mail yesterday. I'm so excited. I used it this morning.
What's that?
My brand new vacuum.
Yeah.
I finally broke down and bought one.
Okay. How does it work?
Oh, it's great. It's so good. You know, I'm not one of those girls like if I'm in a relationship, I don't want jewelry. I don't want candy. I'll take a vacuum. I'll take a microwave. I'll take all that stuff that, you know, you use every day.
Yeah. Well, today is hair day for me, so.
Oh, nice. When are you going? What time's your appointment?
Yep, it's 1 o'clock. So.
At 1.
I swear to God, what is it with T-Mobile and text messaging to people outside of my local area? Holy crap! All right, so I sent it to McKenna McCruiser and Craig Senior. The regular show, so you know what it is.
Right. Hey, Krista.
How you doing? People left when Megan Fox came around. Well, yeah, but the people are still kind of migrating out. Like to think this place is a high tax channel. I can tell you that the the situation with this channel is it is always in flux. The gaming channels our shows are doing better. Let me pull up some stats here to verify my numbers here. Okay.
We have a big house, Tiger.
We have 1,127 subs right now. Okay. And the Glass Night Gaming Show, we had 40 views and 5 likes. The earlier game show, we had 39 views and 4 likes. The morning show, we had 83 views and 7 likes. Which sounds good. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But as we go through and we look at the last evening show we had 72 views, 0 likes. The game show before that, we had 78 views and 8 likes. In the morning show, we had 112 views and 6 likes. So
okay. Well, Michelle, you got to remember, likes have nothing to do with anything except
the view numbers do count, though. The view numbers are the ones
the views are what count, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and you're gonna and I'm gonna state this. Look, if there's people that you want on your panel that other people do not like, it's your panel, it's your show. You do what you feel comfortable with. Don't let anyone bully you into putting someone on here who you don't like, you don't feel comfortable, and don't let anyone do the opposite of that. You know, tell you to not have someone on your panel. You know, like me and Megan Fox don't get along. I don't have anything really against her other than, you know, she has a reason to not like me for no reason. So I'll just avoid her. But if you want her on, do not have her on if you want her on, if that makes sense.
Well, I know that Megan's an eccentric person that's kind of unusual, but I
Yeah,
think
I've had no problem with Megan until she started coming at me.
okay. About what?
Okay, so here is what I believe. From what Paul did to Charlotte a long time ago,
Yeah.
that's why she has an issue with me. It's not because I did anything wrong. It's because of what he did. But I'm
Oh.
getting the flack for it. And not only from her, from other people as well.
Okay.
And I think that's pretty fucked up. But, it is what it is, It's YouTube.
Yeah. There's a YouTube streaming simulator you can get for Windows. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist for the Mac. And like, really, YouTube streaming simulator.
Why would you want to stimulate it?
Basically, it kind of lets you pretend you're, YouTuber, like viral, big channel, like, maybe PewDiePie or one of the other guys. Or you're trying to compete against other YouTubers. Of course, I'm not really trying to compete with anybody. I'm just trying to just keep myself above water. Never mind worrying about other people. Another thing is, I made a game about it, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But the game I've been wanting to see for so long, there's two games. There's Electrician Simulator, and there's Derail Valley. I've been wanting them so bad to be ported to Linux or to Mac, and they haven't been. They're only in Windows. And so now I gotta build a Windows computer so I can play the damn things. Which, Electrician Simulator is a really nice thing. You're taking over the family business of an electrical contractor, and it's set up around the European electrical standards, which for me is, besides I know electricity very well, thank you very much, I know the European standards. I'm like, yeah, this would be a perfect way to practice your skills, even though it's a game, So, but I looked to see if it was available for the Mac, and they never ported it for the Mac, even though it's a new game. It's been around for about a year. And I'm like, this kind of sucks, like, why can't you at least have the Mac version?
Michelle, why do you have to build a Mac? A Windows computer. You can get one for about $200-300. Wouldn't it just be cheaper to just buy a Windows computer?
Well, I got an extra case I have that's been sitting around. It has another motherboard in it. It's an old Celeron motherboard. But the video card on the case is a piece of shit. It's built into the motherboard. It's a piece of garbage because the motherboard is marginal at best. So I was going to replace the motherboard with a new motherboard. Because right now I have, originally it's an old case from 1995. It was actually an old AT case, so we modified the whole ATX motherboards. And I like to recycle and repurpose. So
that's what you're saying. You have the parts, so it'd be easier for you just to build one.
Just to buy the board, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of course, the power supply that's in the existing case is a piece of crap, so I probably would just swap that out with a new power supply too, because the one I have is not suitable for. It's only a 20 pin. But that's what I would do. And for me, that's a pretty good solution. How you doing, Gianni?
Hey, Gianni. Morning. You know what's funny, Gianni? My daughter has a friend in school with the same name. I've never heard the name until I met you, and now she has a friend with that same name.
A male friend or a female friend?
It's a male friend.
Okay. Well, I know that back for a while. A lot of European names were starting to come in to vogue in the United States. Wait, listen to this for a channel or for a live stream title from Twitch, from Asmon Gold TV. He says, "Get in here right now." That's his title. Get in here right now. I was like, wow, boy,
What was
yeah, that
what was the
game
stream
time was
about?
bad. Get in here right now. That's all Asmon Gold says in his Twitch title. Get in here right now.
What was it about?
Pretty much it's just gaming stream.
Oh,
Asmon Gold
okay.
TV does primarily gaming, but sometimes he does editorials too. So,
Okay. Well, Michelle, did you happen to watch my stream?
I watched a little bit of it, but
Okay,
then
so
I
you
just because I
probably
was
got
gonna
the
get ready to go to
gist.
sleep, so I didn't stay and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. But you got the gist of what Stan and I were talking about.
I don't remember exactly right now.
It's all right, Michelle. You could just say you didn't watch it. It's fine. What we were talking about was like with everything that's going on nowadays.
Oh yeah.
There was a video that came out just recently saying that there's a satellite lining up, and they're thinking that the North America is going to be hit with an EMP. So I started talking with Stan and Red and people in Discord about, like, if this happens, what do we do? How do you prepare for this? And that's what my stream was about.
Okay.
And my I guess my question to you, Michelle, is if we're hit with an EMP, are you prepared for, losing all technology?
Well, first of all, depending on what kind of EMP, because there's like 3 different wavelengths or frequencies an EMP can do. The Carrington event was a long wave frequency, was tuned pretty close to the wiring of the telegraph cables that caused the damage. That wouldn't damage chips. The medium wave may damage some things, but still wouldn't damage chip. It's the really short waves caused by a low Earth orbit nuclear explosion, which would destroy your chips, even if they're not connected to mains power or even batteries. Because
that's a good question.
Because you got
John. Go ahead. Sorry, Michelle. Go ahead.
Okay. What I'm just trying to say is most everybody talks about EMPs. The thing is all the same. No, they're different frequencies. The sun does not generate those really short pulses. Because of the fact is that a lot of those pulses wouldn't really get through our upper Earth's atmosphere, the ionosphere. However, those ones from an a nuclear blast, a dirty would get right through because it would be below the ionosphere. A Faraday cage may protect you from the long wave, medium wave, and a very perfectly sealed Earth Faraday cage may protect you from a nuclear EMP, but no guarantees about that because that's so high power, concentrated blast of energy. It will go right across the gates in the semiconductor junctions of an integrated circuit and just totally fry the living bejesus out of it.
Okay.
Because
so John Heyman brought up a good question. Will it affect pacemakers? And Red said they will.
It would.
Or
yeah.
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But most pacemakers are encased in titanium or stainless steel. So therefore, maybe you might, depending on how thick the circuit board, the casing is. But remember, you're not exactly trying to armor-proof or bulletproof your pacemaker. Because after all, you're hearing people saying if you have a pacemaker, you can't use a microwave oven. I don't know if that's true. I don't have a pacemaker. I hope I don't need one. But the thing is, that's a great question. If they're concerned of you using a pacemaker while using a microwave oven, it doesn't say much about shielding from an ultra high frequency EMP blast from a nuclear device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, with pacemakers, I mean, unless, like Red said, if you got a shock, it could kill you. But generally, if your pacemaker goes out, it doesn't mean you necessarily will die, because what pacemakers do, they just regulate your heartbeat.
Right.
As far as I know. So, I mean, you're not going to die right away, but I mean, it's still, people need that, to regulate their heart. So that's scary in itself. Yeah, Stan and I, and even my brother, were talking about like things you can do, and buy to, prepare for something as massive. And, now, look, it may not happen, guys, but it could. And that was what my stream was about. There's these things called, I think it's called a Faraday cage,
Yep.
where you can put things in it to
A
protect
simple
them.
Faraday cage you can make to protect some of your electronics right now is 2 garbage cans within each other, with a basically with a insulator in between them, like a piece of wood or something, to prevent the 2 Faraday cages from touching. And then put your sensitive electronics within that. Make sure they have a tight sealing lid. And then, but they make sure that the outer garbage can is earthed, which means either connected by a cable to the earth grounding rod, or by putting it into the ground itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that does is it uses the skin effect to actually keep the charges from getting to the inner garbage can, to protect the electronics inside. And then ideally you should also wrap that stuff in if you're not using it anyway, it's extra spare goods. Wrap the electronics in aluminum foil and then put them inside an insulated container inside the second garbage can.
Okay, yeah, that's what they were talking about. Use aluminum foil. In case you guys didn't know what Michelle just said there. I don't even know. Aluminium foil. You say aluminium. We say over here in America, we say aluminum.
Actually, the thing is, I stream on 3 internet services, but it doesn't cost me extra because Restream.io doesn't charge me for the 3 services. And my ISP doesn't have a quota, so it doesn't really affect me. So we don't have a data limit here on my home internet. Now, if I was streaming with T-Mobile, that'd be another story, but that still wouldn't affect Restream.io, because I'd be restreaming to one site instead of 3 separate things at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you do what you want to do, Michelle, but we're getting off topic here. I'd like to stay on this topic because I think it's a good topic for you.
Right.
The other thing is that a friend of mine, and I want this friend to know that I don't mention them out of our friendship. I don't think our private conversations need to be out there. So, I mean, I don't want to think that I'm not giving you credit for this. I'm just keeping your name out of it. But a friend of mine sent me or he didn't send me anything. He told me, and then I looked into it, that what was it? The Chinese stone? There was a stone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Japan's killing stone split into 2, releasing superstitions amid the sulfur springs. Now, and then another friend sent me stuff about biblical stuff. Michelle, where do you think we are, as in quote unquote the end of times? I mean, you're spiritual and you're religious. What are your feelings on this?
I think my opinion is that we're going into Tiawaki, the end of the world as we know it. I don't think it's going to be the end of the human race. I don't see...
I agree.
I don't see it. I mean, it's a major, just like Jerry Lee Lewis said, there's a whole lot of shaking going on. Okay, it's just a lot of changes. It's the end of an era. of global economies are starting to seriously break down again for a variety of reasons. And then I see that it's going to become more of an agrarian society. We're going to have to go back to more of a local economy of scale, because I don't think it's going to be practical to keep depending on this just-in-time global issues, where we can see, as we did from 2020, 2023, 2022, that the massive, excuse me, receipts came in here. The massive shipping system basically shows just how impractical it is to depend on a supply chain from all over the world. Speaking of cat, let's get him on camera. Yeah, let's get Rusty Cam up. Okay, got him up there.
Red, are you asking a question? I don't see your question in the chat.
All right.
Oh, he's asking if you're using T-Mobile for your internet.
Right now I'm using Frontier home internet. That's one of the reasons why when you watch the gaming streams, you will notice that we have to keep the rate within 1.5 megabits per second up. So we have to drop a lot of resolution in order to keep within the 1.5 megabit per second up, only because otherwise, if you have a panel going, the panel is going to be fighting for data bits too. So it's easier to just stream as we are right now. We are streaming at 934 kilobits per second, leaving about half a megabit, 500 megabits approximately for overhead, like Google Meets and name servers and things like that in the background. But T-Mobile is our backup. We use that when we are going over there, like remote streaming and things like that. I originally was going to have it kept actively going as a secondary streaming service, but the package that they had, because they don't have T-Mobile home internet here, was like, was 100. What was that? 50? I think it's 50 gigabytes for like $55 or something like that. It's about $1 a gigabyte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when you switched to T-Mobile for a little bit, and it was pretty unstable. And Frontier is pretty much like just the local internet provider, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of those where I used to live.
Well, I mean, T-Mobile has the same issues that the cable company has. If you look at it, it's a shared connection. So, if you got people using their cell phones to watch movies and play games, and then you're going to stream on it, it's a single shared pipe. And so everybody's is trying to use the pipe at the same time. Whereas Frontier, going down the fiber optic cable going into the central office is then subdivided out and goes to the DSLAMs, which then goes to my ADSL 2 plus bonded modem in my wiring closet. So I'm guaranteed a fixed bandwidth.
In layman's term, I guess you're saying that your internet is good and good standing the way you're using it.
No, it's stable.
Remember, there's a lot of people here that aren't techie like you, Michelle.
I don't have to worry about my internet data rates going up and down like a yo-yo. Or like the way I drive American Truck Simulator. It keeps constantly changing speed, That's exactly what the internet does. It's like if you got a cable modem, or if you got internet access to your cell phone, it's going to constantly be changing speed because everybody else is using the same pipe. Whereas basically on a subdivided on a fractional T1 plan, T1 line. Sure, I would love to have a full T1, but yeah, well, I don't, so. But that's the way that works with the network.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, I was laughing at something Gianni said in the chat. Okay, well, okay, Michelle, getting back on topic because we kind of
right.
got off of it a little bit. Are you prepared though if something like that happens? Do you have extra water or anything like that around?
Yeah, we have water. We keep water around in case, sometimes, they work in the wind pipes and the water can get kind of rusty, so we keep extra water around. So, I mean, I don't have thousands of liters of it here, but I have enough for me and Ed for cooking and stuff like that if we need to. I think we got about 20 liters of water right now laying around in a small cardboard box by the door. Just regular tap water. That's fine. Because it's chlorinated, you don't have to worry about getting any kind of mold or mildew or going bad. So that's a big plus. But as far as with the EMPs, like I said, the different frequencies, I think most people have a habit of thinking, oh, well, if you're not plugged into the mains, you're safe. Well, no, that's not the case because, like I explained, the ultra high frequency EMPs from a nuclear device is going to get right into the chips semiconductor junctions and cause them to fry. Okay, because that's just the nature of the way the circuits work. Because, here's an example of something where we take advantage of technology on purpose. Okay, your RFID tags. Your RFID tags that you have, like, for example, like those ones that you see, like those, speed pass cards or things that use an RFID tag, right? Where you wave your card over an the credit card reader. Well, that's an example of where you're using something like an electromagnetic pulsar for good. Because what it does is the terminal sends a quick little blast of energy, which temporarily powers the card for that millisecond or microsecond needs to get the code that it needs to verify who it is. So that's where you're using RFID. It uses an equivalent of an electromagnetic pulse.
Okay. Now, Michelle, will a landline still work if we get hit with an EMP?
If you have step-by-step telephone switching, the answer is yes. But unfortunately, most phone companies long ago went away from step-by-step or crossbar, and they went to electronic, such as ESS. Okay. And that stuff is, of course, got chips in it, and it's gonna burn up. It's just gonna fry because it's computer chips. It's digital ones and zeros.
Okay,
running
that
software.
Makes sense. Okay. Because I know when we lost power, our landline still worked, but yeah, you're right. If an EMP hit, it would fry the electronic component.
Right, because the telephone companies. Okay, this is what people don't really think about. The step-by-step switching is just relays. That's, in many cases, it's more hardened against a nuclear explosion than the digital stuff is. Because also don't forget that as far as the when you lose power, your phone keeps working. That's because the phone company one may actually be in a different town than you. So obviously it's getting power from the commercial grid too. But if it doesn't, that's required under FCC. Since it is a communications carrier, it has a generator or multiple generators that keeps the power supply running. But it also has a large bank of batteries in the basement or, in on the floors of the phone company that provides enough electricity to keep the phone systems working.
Okay.
So they're designed to have backups. Um, getting your boots done. I have a landline. I still have a landline. But Winston no longer has step-by-step mechanical switching or crossbar. So we used to have step-by-step. They replaced that in about the 1990s. They went to electronics ESS technology from AT&T. But the or Western Electric. But the thing was is that they used to be quite a sight to watch when you make a phone call through mechanical step-by-step telephone switching. Um, from going through from the line finder to going through the selectors to going through the the final stages to make a phone call. It's all mechanical, all relays, mechanical parts that will make the calls for you. But the phones themselves, if they're good old American or European phones that consist of a microphone and a receiver, will probably keep working fine. But if the switching system goes bad, there are still other ways to make phone calls, of course. You can always make a homebrew telephone switchboard to make calls that way. I've done many of them, so.
Yeah. So what do you, Michelle, what do you think? I've been talking to one of my friends who's really religious, and my assessment long ago was I didn't believe in the Bible because I didn't trust men that I have never met that who wrote a story about a guy that I do believe in. I do honestly believe in Jesus, and I do believe he died for our sins. But with everything that's coming to pass, with the end of time story,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that the Bible may have some validity, and you being, I don't know, I don't think you're a practicing Catholic, but I do believe that, that is your religion. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the problem is that you have two groups that canonized the New and Old Testament. And what they were both
Mm-hmm.
were aiming for was to produce something that you could say is homogenized, if you want to call it that. That is, they wanted to take some of the many, many, many texts that were written and try to put it in a form that was consistently be used for religious teaching. Um, in the case of the Jerusalem work on the Old Testament at the time of, before Jesus, the Jerusalem scriptures were put together, which includes the Apocrypha books. And these books were standardized for the Old Testament. In fact, if you ever look at some old King James Bibles, they used to have those books in them. But today we don't see those books in the Old Testament. The Apocrypha are not really mentioned much anymore, but they are actually still in the Catholic Bible, like the Book of Sirach and the Book of Tobit and things like that, and Maccabees, Second Maccabees. Whereas in the New Testament, but just like the Old Testament, the New Testament canon, which is St. Constantine, wanted to have a consistent gospel of Jesus Christ that he could carry, or that he could, his priests could read to the congregation that would be consistent among the Roman Empire. And so we have the New Testament. So if you look at the New Testament, that really doesn't have very many additional books in the official canon, because they didn't actually remove books later on, but they actually had started books in the Council of Nicaea that were standardized. Okay? Whereas later on, the Protestants took out the Book of Tobit, the Book of Maccabees, a lot of the stuff in the Old Testament. So this is interesting stuff in Sirach and others. So yeah,
Why would they remove things from the original Bible?
Because sometimes they felt that those books were considered unnecessary, or they considered them to be confusing and misleading to some people. And that's why
But
that's why a lot of the
if
Protestant Bibles removed up a lot of the books from the Old Testament.
okay, so but if Jesus Christ um gave these messages to his disciples,
Yeah.
and being in a religious, if you're in the religion and if you're a pastor, priest, whatever, and you believe in Jesus Christ, wouldn't all his teachings, all his messages be important? Like, I don't
Yeah, I
understand why
would
they
think
would remove
so. I
that.
would think so. But again, you got to understand that there is, of course, the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have
Mm.
books that were later found out, and that could have been added to the Bible. Please understand, there were hundreds of New Testament books written, scrolls that were written attributing messages to Jesus Christ. In fact, there's even two final endgame books. One of them, of course, we know is the Revelation by St. John the Divine. And then there was another revelation, but I forgot who wrote it. That they already stuck with the one that was St. John the Divine. Because that already was existing in the Bible, but then they, at the same time, were debating, well, should we add the second one? Because remember, they were trying to standardize the Bible. But they didn't want the Bible to be too thick and too heavy. Because you remember, somebody's got to carry this sucker. Because printing books was expensive back then. Because monks would have to sit there and hand copy every single book, letter for letter, and often by candlelight. I couldn't visualize trying to do that. I think if I was to do that, I think I'd be so sick of looking at the Bible enough times. Especially when your abbot goes, hey, I need about 5 copies of the King James Version. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but you got to remember though that people that do that, they make that stuff like their life's work, and when they get something like that done, they feel accomplished. And so, I mean, I don't know, just everything. What are your take then, Michelle, on giants that supposedly lived? I'm thinking millions of years ago. I'm not sure. Do you believe in giants?
Yeah, I believe giants existed because let's look at the reality here. We have Bigfoot. We have rumors of Bigfoot, Sasquatch. We have, of course, now we have very large, tall human beings too. For example, I mean, look at some of the women basketball players. I mean, they're tall, right? They're like giants. I mean, sure, we don't have anybody that's 35 feet tall like King Kong, but depends on what they mean by a giant. I mean, if you're talking about someone that's 7 foot, 8 foot tall, we already have them. So why wouldn't they exist
No,
back then?
I'm talking titans.
Oh
like
yeah,
Titan
Titans.
size.
You mean like you talk about the old gods like in the World of Warcraft universe?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, there might be evidence that they actually do exist. I mean, there's the Great Mound. In I think it was in Ohio, and I think there's another one over in Ohio one I'm a little more familiar with. That they think may be a burial mound of a really, really big person. We're talking big person, Paul Bunyan sized person.
Right.
So maybe there may have actually been such people like that. There's a float.
I've been seeing evidence of like petrified tree stumps that are like people are thinking that they're mountains, but they actually, if you get a good distance away, they look like tree trunks.
Yeah.
There's also like petrified faces and hands, and it could be a trick of the eye, like an illusion. But what if these things all existed?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about religion, and and to hear other people's views, because you learn so much and it gets your mind going.
Right, Stan, that would make sense what you're saying about the bones that are in the Smithsonian. But I also know that the Smithsonian really doesn't talk much about them. They seem to keep them kind of quiet about the giants. There is some of the excavated bones that they believe are human bones from giant people.
Exactly. So why would they keep this stuff hidden, Michelle? Like exactly, the same thing. Like, why would they try to keep alien stuff hidden? Why would they hide this stuff from us?
Because it gives them an inferiority complex. I mean,
You think that's it? You don't think they're trying to hide something? I honestly believe it's like okay, and I've learned this from being on YouTube. When you twist something or hide something, you can push the narrative to the way you want it to go.
right.
And I honestly believe, because I have an issue with the 1% in this country who control everything.
Right.
It's everything they want us to know so that they can push the narrative and keep us fighting amongst each other, keep us preoccupied so that they can do whatever the heck they're doing.
Right.
And we're not paying too much attention to them. But I don't understand why would they hide these specific things from us? I mean, you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that there's no other intelligent life in this world, and not this world, but in this galaxy and in space. I mean, all these different planets. You would think that we're the only organisms around. I mean, that just shows how small-minded some people are. There's got to be some other life.
Well, like I said, it definitely is a control factor in that they're afraid of inferiority complex, I think. Is that if they know that there's something better than them out there, that those people are going to have to come to the grips with reality that they are not that special any more than the peons they control. Okay? You have to understand that for them, their whole life is control. If it gets out of the bag that one, there's ETs out there coming, or maybe not necessarily coming, but just quietly minding their own beeswax. No longer they can say, we control the universe. We are gods. Now they have to admit, oh no, we're not gods because there's other people out there, and so God didn't create just life on this planet. That would change their whole mentality of everything that they were told. I can remember it's a control thing. So without that control, their tenuous grip on what they do is going to slip away. They're not going to have the same level of austerity or manipulation of people, because once they can say, well, I'm sorry, but Alpha Centauri has life, and you know what, we're not the only planet out there that has life, so you can go suck it. That's kind of what they're afraid of. Because the other thing that's afraid of, well, what if somebody in Alpha Centauri said, well, you know what, there's a nice little blue-green marble over there, let's go ahead and invade it. The sad truth is if they did that, and that's one of the reasons why they keep it secret too, is if they did invade it, like we did in War in the Worlds by H.G. Wells, they wouldn't be able to stop those guys. If you can travel interstellar space and then you come onto this planet, you must have some pretty powerful technology to travel through interstellar space. I bet you got some pretty powerful weapons if you come for Malvin purposes. And they're afraid of that because then once they lose control, because remember, the control is controlled by fear. So if you can't make people fear you, you have no control.
Quote unquote bullies. You're exactly right, Michelle. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And that's why I love you, Michelle, because you are a smart woman. And this is where I'd like to see your channel go.
Yeah.
This type of stuff, because you know your stuff, Michelle. And even if people don't agree with you, you make valid points.
Right. And that's the problem with Michelle, of course. for the masses, my show probably doesn't really resonate with people if you get me into this area, because you're so used, you want something that is kind of like quick sex, you know? Give me a quickie. I don't have time for the long deal courtship. Just give it to me really quick and fast. You know, it's the same thing when my show unfortunately has become. It's the same deal. I don't want to sit there and have a show that's going to make me sit there and think for hours about all the inner workings of the universe, because a lot of people are not used to thinking that way. But think about this. If you have nothing else to do, if the EMP of ultra high frequency happens because of whatever ICBM or, you know, even just a regular system failure because of neglect of maintenance, you're going to have a lot of time on your hands. So then you start, kind of like the song of fixing a hole where the rain comes in because it keeps my mind from wandering where it all goes. Right? It's like once you start getting down that rabbit hole of thinking about things like, where is the water going after the rain comes in? You know, or, you know, it's just, it's intellectual, and then a lot of people's brains just can't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
But for people, for example, like Stephen Hawking, especially Stephen Hawking is a good example. He's a theoretical physicist. That's all he had time to do. Because, I mean, with his Lou Gehrig's disease, he didn't have much choice. What is he going to do? He sits in a power chair, right? Before he died. Right? That's all he did. So his mind was going like a million miles an hour, but physically he looked, well, dead. But he wasn't dead, of course. They had used,
Right, his mind was still working. Yep.
but for the average everyday person to actually stop and think about everything, how the world works, would probably make their heads explode. For example, why do we do what we do? Why does a society doing what it's doing? For example, why does one government decide to attack another government? Why does money matter so much? Why are we so obsessed with gold and silver and platinum and palladium and other precious metals? Why are we so invested obsessed with physical things? Why are we so obsessed with something called fairness when the world has never been fair? And that the world never will be fair. Where did the whole concept of fairness come from? I mean, it's a lot more deeper than you think. By the way, the fairness thing, I can just tell you this: it's something that exists from our life on the other side, where there really is a fair and fairness. How we say it's not fair. Kids say it all the time. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. How do you get the fair, or where does the idea of fair come from? Well, it comes from your life on the other side of how things are expected to work. But the minute you come to Earth, you realize the world is not fair.
No, life is not fair. It is not.
Not this life, anyway.
And that's what that saying of when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. You got to work with what you got, and you got to live within your means and just be happy. And when people get too materialistic, they get those egos. That's what makes their lives miserable. It makes them miserable. They make themselves miserable. I have nothing but a little bit of, the basics. It's just like
Douglas Adams said in his Secret Skies of the Galaxy. It's the same thing. It's talking about the men and women who chase those little green slips of paper. It's not the green slips of paper that are not happy. It's those who collect them. Why are they so obsessed with green slips of paper? Oh, good question. I mean, why we are so obsessed about having so much stuff. I don't understand that. I mean, it's true that when I started out with YouTube, I started out with my iPhone 3GS taped to a tripod with duct tape. Swear to God, it's the truth. That's how my phone was attached to my tripod, which is an existing camera tripod for my 35mm camera. because I didn't have the phone clip to hold it to the
Right.
tripod.
You make do with what you got, Michelle. And the
Right.
fact that you're techie like that, that's great. Because you'll sit and figure something out, and more people need to do that, instead of saying, "Oh, well, this doesn't work. I guess I'll throw it away and just go buy a new one." Try to fix it, Try to
Right.
make things work,
Well,
to the desire you
again,
need
there
them
we
to
get
work
back
to.
to the consumer mentality of the global economy, which we were talking about from the beginning. Talking about just-in-time technology. The fact of the matter is we see breakdowns going on. This stuff could have been avoided years ago if we had state local economies instead of going to this major platforms that we have today, where Amazon, Walmart, eBay. Yeah, I guess I'll throw in eBay too. And it's the fact is that we become more dependent on a major supply chain, and then once the supply chain goes tits up, there's no local manufacturing, there's no local production. That's in the feudal societies of the Middle Ages. Well, there was things being imported from overseas by ship, trading routes. A lot of things are made locally by local craftspeople. For example, anything that you wanted, they were custom made, like chainmail, swords, or even everyday furniture was made by a local craftsperson. Even your groceries would come from a local farmer. If you didn't raise the food yourself, because you're living in the cities, you would get your food from a local farmer just outside of town that raised the food and killed the animals and made meat products available to you. And that's what we need to go back to, is that local, within, say, 20, 30-mile range of products. And as we see with the price of gasoline and diesel going through the roof as we are, we're depending on, again, a global supply chain for fuel. And that's not helping. People are not going to be able to keep depending on getting oil and natural gas from 1,000+ miles away. But maybe people might have to say as well, what can I do for local transportation? Do we have local horses? Do we have mules? Do we have oxen? Can we get things done on the local level? That's the mentality that you're going to see. That's again what the end of the world as we know it. The end of the world, the mechanized world, is coming to an end. In fact, originally, it was prophesied back in the 1970s that there would the end of the oil boom, which it did happen. The end of the oil boom as we have it back in the 1970s. Of course, wasn't quite as dire as the writer talked about. But the thing is that the end of cheap oil is what he was talking about. The end of oil being basically a commodity like a piece of paper, or even something like even like a plasticware, whatever it means, anything that uses plastic, which is mostly made out of petroleum, is going to go up in price because we depend so much on petroleum to do everything.
Well, you know what I heard, because of the war over in Ukraine and Russia, and the fact that Biden is cutting off trading and imports and exports with Russia.
Yeah.
There are some things that we're not going to have available to us very soon. And there are certain cooking oils like canola oil and sunflower oil and stuff like that. And, and the person I was talking to said, look up online what we have been exporting from Russia, because if there are things on there that you guys use on a regular basis, you better get it now, because we're not going to have it for long. I mean, we've already seen it in the grocery stores where a lot of stuff is limited or non-existent. You can't get it.
Actually, canola oil is actually, I believe we can get it within the United States. It's a plant-based oil. Okay.
Yeah, but I think a lot of our supply comes from them. So, I mean, it may be very scarce, and then eventually we may not even have it, depending on how those
Canola oil
factories
is
redo
really not
themselves.
good for you to eat anyway. Canola oil is not good for you to eat. However, um, the other thing to keep in mind is that, like I said, back to mechanized transportation, um, you can actually run an engine, a diesel engine, on peanut oil. Original diesel engine was designed to run on peanut oil.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But thanks to petroleum, everybody thinks it was cheap or easier to get it out of the ground than it was to squeeze it out of peanuts.
Now, here's a question for you, Michelle. I remember years ago, my dad, he was a mechanic, and he was a traveling mechanic. He would go to different companies, factories, whatever, and he would go and repair their lift trucks.
Yeah.
And at that time, diesel was so much cheaper to buy than gas. And now I think if it's not as equal amount, if it's some of times it's even more expensive than regular. Diesel, I was told, is crap fuel. It's like all the leftover oil and stuff converted to make diesel, right?
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Okay, so why is it more expensive?
But which kind of fuel now you're talking about? Like biodiesel?
Diesel. Well, whatever the semi trucks use.
Okay.
The
Well,
diesel.
it's because mostly because of road taxes. They add taxes to it just like they do gasoline.
So it's more of a taxing than anything. So
Yeah.
it's very cheap to make, but they're taxing the hell out of it, and that's why a lot of our products go up in price
Right.
and
Exactly.
all that crap. See, and that to me is complete and utter bullshit. The fact that our government consistently fucks us over, and I'm sorry, I know you don't like that F word, Michelle, but that's the only word I can think of. What the government's been doing to us all these years, and it's complete and utter bullshit. And, I honestly wish people would come together and start seeing this and what they're doing
Well,
to us.
let me tell you one thing. I'm going to say one thing, which is this: talking about the end of the world as we know it economically. Let's talk about the physicality here. I have a weight issue. Now, guess what? If you got a spirit gut on your gut, then you know what you're gonna do is you got a few more extra weeks of food on your hand. It's called your belly. But don't forget you still gotta have clean drinking water no matter what you do. People the obesity epidemic happened only because the fact is we have gotten so sedentary thanks to what I said about the global shipping situation. But now that the situation is coming to an end, we may not have that option anymore to go ahead and pick up the phone and call Domino's or order from Walmart or order from Amazon, because if you do, it's going to cost you more money. Because remember, somebody else is lugging the stuff to your house. So I think we're going to see a die-off of people who are incapable of providing for themselves. Now, I know I'm kind of in that category because I have physical injuries, but at the same time, I've always been a go-getter, so I might survive fine, but I might have to adjust things to make it better for myself. But there's going to be a lot of people who are going to lose a lot of weight real quick. Talk about the ultimate weight loss crash. You're going to see a lot of people losing weight. Because once they have to start lugging their own water, carrying their own firewood, and that's what it could come down to. Because
not only that, Michelle, I mean, people will start getting more exercise and stuff, but one of the biggest things that people do not understand in this world is all this processed food.
Oh, right.
That
absolutely.
You think that you buy cheap because when you're poor you need to go cheap.
Right.
The stuff they put into this food, guys, it's toxic. It's killing you. That is what's putting on the weight. That is what's putting on the weight on you guys. I went on a diet years ago before I got pregnant. I eliminated everything processed in my diet, and I lost a lot of weight in a few months.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. This stuff is killing us. And
Oh,
I know
absolutely.
being somebody who is on the poorer side of things, it's a lot easier to go buy a $1 box of snack cakes for your kids than it is to make them a healthy snack, apples and, peanut butter or something like that.
Right. Which
We've
brings
become
us up
very
to
lazy.
something that we have as a modern trend in the cities now called food deserts.
What's that?
Food deserts are basically the shortage of healthy food choices, especially in the urban environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I'm certainly not immune from this. You got people who can't easily get to the grocery store for whatever reason. My case is because it's not necessarily within walking distance. So you go to the nearest store. May it be Winn Dixie, maybe not Winn Dixie, maybe a very small little mom and pop shop that may have a few things, or you go to like 7-Eleven, or you go to Extra Mart, or you go to DV Mart, whatever. And what are you gonna get in there? It's all fast food stuff, right? Maybe hot dogs sitting on a hot dog circulator, maybe some pre-made pizza pieces. Not really healthy because you don't know anything about where the ingredients actually came from.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you eating? And I was like, what God said in that movie when we eating the boxes of cereal. He said, "We're turning our kids into garbage cans." Yeah, exactly what they are. That's what they do. The food that we eat from any convenience foods is just that. It's turning our kids into garbage cans.
It's not only that, Michelle. My daughter is 9 years old, and she's already in full-blown puberty. The hormones that they inject into the milk and the meats, they're screwing up our kids.
Oh yeah.
Our kids. My kid she is so lost. She's got the body of a young adult, but she has a kid-like mind, and those hormones are screwing her up.
Right.
This has been going on for years.
Oh yeah.
All this shit that they've been putting into our food. People laughed at people when they were saying that the government is trying to kill us because of all the chemicals. It's not a joke. It's the truth. And if you looked into it, you would see. And a lot of that too, they put those chemicals in there to prolong the foods as well. Even if you look at your canned goods, if you can look at a label from the 1950s or whatever and look at a label today and see all the stuff they put into a can of, say, peaches.
Right.
All the poisons that have been put into that. It's not good.
And a lot of it was done not so much to deliberately kill you, but it was to keep the stuff cheaper because we keep wanting the prices to be cheap. Well,
yeah, that, and it prolongs it. But here's the catch-22 on that. It makes it cheaper. It lasts longer, and it gets the companies more money because people will buy, their product to say, okay, this lasts longer, it's cheaper, but in the long run, it's killing you.
Right.
And it's affecting your children. It's affecting you. If you can't lose weight and you've tried everything you possibly can, I'm telling you, get off the processed food, and you will see that weight peel off of you.
Right, but the problem is processed food is in everybody's diet in this modern age.
Yep. Well, I know there are things that you can do though to avoid a lot of it. Instead of going and buying a frozen bag of chicken nuggets, make your own chicken nuggets. You know what's going into that. Then the meat itself, it already has contaminants, whatever in it. But it's a lot less than if you were to buy a frozen bag of chicken nuggets. You know what I'm saying?
We don't even know what's in chicken nuggets.
There's things you can do.
We don't even know what's in Chicken McNuggets. Seriously, I have heard so many things about Chicken McNuggets. They say it contains chicken and filler. Well, what's the filler? I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Um, but the thing is, the other thing is too is the way we eat has changed a lot, as well as the way we used to be. For example, back in the just say back into the 30s or the 60s, most meals were a mom and dad, the kid, would sit down at the table and they would eat a nice standard meal. Nowadays, it's more like they all eat at different times, constantly zapping food in the microwave, right? You know,
Exactly. Something quick. Because, that's because of the society today. You have to have, if there's two people, if there's a couple together and they have children, it's it's a society where both people have to work. Back in the day, the mother could stay home with the children and do the meals and do all that stuff and have time to make a home cooked meal. You can't do that nowadays. Everything now is quick,
well, there's a
cheap,
lot of reasons
and
why
whatever
you
you can
won't
do to
see
get it on the
that.
table.
There's a lot of
Huh?
reasons why you won't see that today. Number one, the fact is things gotten so expensive. It takes both parents to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the main reason.
And that's our society. That look at gas. Look at eggs even. I mean, you used to be able to buy eggs so super cheap, and they've like quadrupled in price over the last 10 years or so.
Oh yeah.
It's just complete madness. You have to, if there's more than being a single mom, I have to do things to make ends meet just for me and my kid. And when I was with my ex, that's another person. There would have been no way I could support him. He would have to work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea, we have to understand, as I said, prior to the 1970s, it was not uncommon to have a housewife that was in the home 24/7. But that doesn't mean that she was just sitting there like Peggy Bunny and basically eating chocolate. She was busy cleaning the house, and of course would go out there and get some things like shopping done for the husband. The husband would be busting his tail. Well, of course, when
Mhm.
the 70s came, it was very common for now that both man and the woman had to work, which also made sense for divvying out the responsibility. Like in Mr. Mom, for example, the movie was he was actually taking care of the household things while his
Mhm.
wife was working because he couldn't find a job, but she could. You know, and that's
Right.
this the way it is still today. You got this situation where both are working, and if you do have a stay-at-home parent, um, it doesn't mean that they're like just being lazy and doing nothing, but it means that they're taking care of the house, making sure the kids are fed, making sure the kids get clean clothes,
Hmm.
um, and that takes a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
responsibility.
yeah, I don't know how it worked like in your household, Michelle, growing up, and you're a little bit older than me, but like in the 80s and 90s, my parents had 5 kids. My dad had a job where he made $35 to $40 an hour. Nowadays, that's probably more like $60, $70 an hour
Right.
because of the job he had. She stayed at home for as long as she can, and she did the homemade meals. She would keep the house up. She would do the laundry. She would take care of the animals. But like today, you can't do that. Even my brother has a job where he makes $30 an hour, and
Right.
he only has one kid at home. His wife has to work. She
Right.
has to work,
Well,
otherwise they
obviously,
can't make
like I
ends
said,
meet.
in the 70s is when you started to see this trend. Um, I was a child. I was born in '68, so from the first 10 years of my life, 12 years of my life, I was a child of the '70s. I saw a lot of the situation where both parents started working. Now, beginning of the kids were becoming more on their own without the supervision that they would have had if one of the parents was keeping an eye on the kids. I'm talking about teenagers now, particularly when you grow up as a
Hmm.
teenager. That was you could see that the kids started getting unruly. But by the 1980s came in, you had your latchkey kids. Those are the ones that took care of themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, those would be the generation of kids that would particularly embrace the microwave. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and I understand, it makes sense when you think about it, right? I'll put some pizza rolls in the microwave. It doesn't take me that long. Or I can go ahead and heat up a hot pocket or a piece of
Right.
frozen pizza Elio's pizza in the toaster oven, whatever. That that's because, well, what are you gonna do? Mom and Dad are both working. I got the house to myself.
Skunk. That is a great wife, Skunk. That you're able to stay at home if she works. And and for a while I was the main breadwinner in my relationship with my ex. Because of the career I had. But yeah, you're right, Michelle. It there was an era that passed over where when both parents, because my mom ended up she got a job. She ended up going to college and become a realtor.
Yeah.
Um, because she needed to start working to help pay the bills. And us kids were responsible, because we were teenagers at the time, to take care of ourselves. The only difference is my mom was one of those women that she would, on the days that she had off, she would make meals so that we could go and heat them up in the microwave instead of popping in a hot pocket or pizza rolls or cooking a
Right.
pizza.
Right.
That was the difference. And that's how I know how to cook today, because of the things that my mom had taught me back then. And unfortunately, because of those kids that grew up and didn't have that, now they're passing that information on to their kids.
Right.
And that's where the society is slipping. And if you guys, I've stocked up on flour, sugar, rice. If you guys don't know how to do something like make bread or noodles, you need to look into learning how to do that, because if something does happen, or even if you can't afford it, you have flour's cheap right now. Teach yourself how to do this stuff before it's too late. Or even if you're just struggling for a while, it'll save you so much money.
Right. And also make sure you're aware of one thing, because this I didn't know this until I saw this on Bright Side, and I'm not gonna give this real quick. If you're gonna eat pasta reheats, make sure that it's not pasta reheats that have been sitting on the counter for a few hours, because then a nasty pathogen can grow in the pasta that can kill you.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So I was like, okay, so as long as you immediately serve the pasta while it's hot and then put the excess in the refrigerator or throw it in the tip. Don't leave pasta on the counter, because it will start to build up a parasite, not yeah, bacteria or a virus material in the pasta. It's because it's in the wheat that will actually germinate and is toxic. So make sure to keep the food refrigerated. That makes sense, right? How many times do we actually not think about that? So, but if it wasn't for like the Food Network, I'm gonna be honest here. This is where Food Network has got it right. Is that take a look at the TV show called Worst Cooks in America. I watched that show a lot. I mean, I learned enough about cooking from watching, shows like Good Eats with Alton Brown, Throw That with Bobby Flay, and a few others. But when you see what these people cook, and one person didn't even know how to boil water, it's like, what the hell? Like, turn on the gas. You put a match to the flame or to the gas jet. If you don't have electronic ignition, you don't have pilots, right? Turn on the gas, put a saucepan of water from the sink onto the said gas fire, and then wait for the water to boil. Oh, what is boiling? It means when it starts bubbling. Okay? Well, like I said, what's Worst Cooks in America? You will basically bust your gut laughing at some of the food that comes over to Amberell and the originally Bobby Flay. Oh, what they're trying to determine for the contestants for the new season. Some of the food looks atrocious. That's all I'll say. Who's timing out? Who is this?
They're saying F the N words, Michelle. We're taking care of it.
Well, if they keep it up, just hide them. If they're replete, for example, this Dave guy, he can actually be. Just go ahead. I'm going to use this example here. Just hide him. Okay, he's already hidden. Okay, so I'm not have to change that.
Yeah. I was just timing them out, but you're right. We probably should just hide them because they keep doing it.
Well, what it is that there are people that are trying to sabotage this channel because we're bringing up something that is not the kind of content they want. Which is related to what I talked about Yuck Ranch. You know what Yuck Ranch wants. And Krista said she tried to have a talk with him, and she said he clearly is not a good person.
No. Like I said, nobody can tell you who you can and cannot have on your channel. But Michelle, if someone makes you uncomfortable and makes you feel bad, then you have to be that person to cut them out of your life.
Yeah.
You have to make that decision.
All right. So anyway, go back to the food, inserting the food, and let's talk about eating habits. When I'm talking about, let's talk about etiquette. I know that we live in a society of everything is finger food, which makes sense, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, maybe Taco Bell. I never went to Taco Bell, so I can't really say what Taco Bell's like. But I suspect it's the same. Everything is finger food, but you ever wonder is like if maybe this kind of eating habit is actually causing us problems too. It's doing a number.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Michelle, it's so much easier that when you're on lunch break to run to the fast food restaurant or even a gas station and pick up a taco or a burger and fries.
Right.
It is easy. And there's nothing wrong with that, because everything's okay in moderation. But, people get lazy and they think, I'm too tired. They had McDonald's for lunch. I'm going to have Burger King for dinner. It becomes a habit, and it does get addicting. It does. It took me a long time to get soda out of my diet.
Right.
But I am glad. Yeah, I can't even really drink a soda now. I can have a little bit, but after a couple drinks, I'm done. It's not something I really require in my diet anymore.
Right. Oh, that's another thing. High fructose corn syrup in particular is extremely bad for you. People don't really know that. Some people say high fructose corn syrup is the same thing as sugar, which is actually a form of sucrose. No, it's a different type of sugar. It's called...
it's processed, right? It's processed into...
fruits, orange juice is full of fructose naturally. Okay, but when you're eating an orange, the same fructose, you actually have to work to chew the said orange. So whatever you're getting out of the orange, because the fiber in the orange is helping to keep the fructose, from being so nasty. But when you're processing high corn fructose, what you're really eating is pure fructose. And the businesses say, well, this is good. It's sugar, right? No, it's not, because it's a different kind of sugar. But the problem is, what does this fructose do to your body?
No.
One, it actually turns off your sensational fullness, which means you don't know when you're done eating or not. So your body keeps saying I need more energy. Feed me. It's always a way to use it, because it encourages people to eat more. So thus you got these big 500, 600 pounders people, because that's why. They're basically big meatballs with arms and legs. Okay? I hate to say it. They're full of crap. Literally full of crap. Because they eat too much. Because they kept saying is, I'm still hungry after eating that pizza. Oh, I'll have another one. even though they more than likely took in all the calories they really needed, they still think that they're hungry, so they take more pizza in. But that's key to how business makes money.
Yeah, it is.
Same thing
Yeah,
with the
they make
salt.
things cheaply to be able to put that stuff out there but you can't blame them either. I mean, because they have to survive too. They have to pay their workers. They have maintenance on the machines that they use. They're only doing what they have to do to survive as well. Yeah, some of the CEOs and stuff get paid big bucks, but depending on what their job is, a lot of these people that work for these factories and stores or whatever, they really bust their butt to get this stuff out there. They're working people, men
Yeah.
and women.
I mean,
So I mean, you can't fault them.
yeah, but I mean, don't forget they have what they call food science. What they do is they depend on food science technology to make food appealing.
Hmm.
And so that I mean, depending on what kind of food, there's specialty foods, right? You got your vegan, you got your vegetarian, you got your dairy free, you got your we are living in an age of the chemist, basically the chemist.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
I can go ahead and I can go into my lab. I can create things good and bad. I'm talking about food chemistry here. And
Right.
but yet at the same time, the the consumer is still like, for example, if I can make a hamburger in a lab, scientifically created meat, what they call schmeat, by the way, SHMEAT.
Shmi.
Yeah, basically scientifically created meat out of material that would normally be processed, by normal cell division in a petri dish.
Hmm.
And then we can say, well, it's meat because it came out of meat, DNA. It was ex vitro. It wasn't actually resulting of a baby calf being born, for example, to make beef. It just was done in a petri dish.
Right. Well, a lot of these like fast food restaurants too are going to like the vegetarian meat.
Yeah.
It's all made out of plant and it tastes just like meat. Well, if you taste like, okay, take the Whopper. If you taste what is it called? The Incredible Whopper or something like
Yeah,
that. If you
impossible.
taste just, yeah, if you taste just the meat and compare it to regular meat, it does taste different.
Yeah.
But why do you think they're doing this? They're doing this, in my opinion, because we're not going to have meat in the long run eventually. A lot
Right.
of the farms around here, the cattle farms, they're closing up shop. They can't make ends meet. They're selling their stock, or they're slaughtering them, and they're getting out of the business
Right.
because it's not profitable anymore.
Right. Because don't
They have
forget
to
how
put
much
too much out.
expensive is it to get the food stuff for the feedlots. That should be delivered by truck. Then those feedlots need materials to raise those, bet cattle to make the meat that you eat. As far as the vegetarian meats, I have no problem with them. I eat them on occasion. They're fine. Impossible Burger is okay. Okay, but there's the thing that's still going to be a reality is that even if you're growing vegetable based food, that's still getting stuff delivered by truck, which still uses fossil fuels, which means you're right back where you started from. It doesn't matter if you can't get green for your cattle or get your cattle to the feedlot. Or if
Hmm.
you're getting or having a farmer raising fruits and vegetables, if he can't get the fruits and vegetables to market because the truck's too expensive to drive, in either case, it's over because we've depended too much on oil. Human beings tend to do this. We tend to depend on one thing too much. And
Well, we take things for granted. We do. We
oh,
take things for
absolutely,
granted.
absolutely.
Everybody's guilty of that. Hmm.
So the problem is what we should have done is an energy portfolio is diversified. And how can we
Hmm.
diversify? For example, Look at the 19th century. You had people that had oxen. You had people that had mules. You had people that had donkeys. You had people that had horses. You had people that basically pushed barrels of, wheelbarrows of supplies. Yeah, short, in the supply chain. These are people that, and steam engine, they would still burn coal or wood. Of course, in the 19th century, steam engine exists, right? But what the problem is we've got to the point where mechanization said, oh, now we can go further and further away, which goes back to what I said earlier about the global shipping paradigm is coming to a crash. It's just coming to an end.
And I want to address something with Metal Kitty, and you're absolutely right. If something happens as big as something like a nuke, Metal Kitty, you're absolutely right. There's nothing you can do to prepare for something like that other than try to be with the people you love,
right?
To be in your last final moments with them. And even if that, I mean, you'll end up with them eventually on the other side. But what they're talking is what's going to happen is we're going to be kicked back into like a Stone Age type era, and that's what, like, me and Stan were addressing. If that happens and you're not prepared, you're going to be suffering. And like I said, and I've had this talk with many people. If it was just me, I could probably write it out, but I have a child that I have to look after. Another thing that Stan and I didn't address on our stream, if you got pets, and something catastrophic happens, you got to think about them as well. Or,
absolutely.
You have to be the bigger person there and put them out of their misery, because, you don't want to watch them starve, and it would be hard on you as well, to share what food you have with your dog or cat, rabbit, whatever the hell you have. That's one thing we didn't address on the stream is pets. I got 2 cats, stock up on pet food, just keep some extra stuff, tuna for cats, for dogs. Dogs can eat table scraps, but these are all things that people need to start thinking about, and I think Cruiser said, nothing's going to happen. We're not going to be in a war. It doesn't even have to be something that bad. What if
right now, like I said, it's not even a war that's causing this problem. It's already existed for 2 years, more than 2 years.
Well,
but I don't think we're going to go back. I don't think we're going to go back to the Stone Age. I think we have progressed beyond that.
What if even like, okay, say Michelle, say hypothetically your place gets, like you need to leave it for a few days. They're fumigating. There's a fire. There's a flood. There's something like that, and you have nothing in place of a plan of action, like a place to go.
Right.
Extra stocked up stuff. What if the banking market collapses? You can't get to your money, and money's not going to be worth anything anyway. It's just, these when you become a parent, these things become a lot more prevalent and important in your life, because you have to think about that child that you brought into this world. And if you're a pet owner as well, being responsible pet owner means, you have to take care of those. They're your fur babies.
Right.
So, I mean, these are just things that, like, you need to start thinking about it and, putting stuff aside and, coming up with some type of a plan.
Well, like in my case, I would say is, but I don't think we're going to go back to the Stone Age. However, if you think about it, we might go back to the 15th century.
Well, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's always been my motto. My mom always taught us that you prepare for the worst, you hope for the best.
The one thing that will remain as long as they're kept dry and treated properly is books. Okay, now, I said treated properly, that's the key. So many nowadays, we're so used to having a book like a Kindle. I'm sorry, but if your Kindle basically has dead batteries or get electrically zapped by a high frequency electromagnetic pulse, you're going to have to go back to the paper books. And so a lot of older books will continue to be available, but the new books may not be available because they never were released in paper form.
Exactly. Well, you know what I've been doing, like, I found recipes online that I'm writing down. I keep a spiral notebook of every recipe that I've done. My mom's got recipes, you know, for how to make like noodle dumplings, noodles, you know, stuff like that. I found a recipe of how to make like flour tortillas and, you know, anything like that that's simple and basic is going to
Yeah.
be a lifesaver when it comes to, you know, if in times of hardship. You know, who's to say that if that we are entering into this Ukraine Russian war, if it doesn't escalate, we can even go into another depression, you know, and
We're already in
food will become
depression. We're
scarce.
already in the depression. But here's the thing: if you want to look at parallels to history, we are now where the Roman Empire was, the decline of the Roman Empire. If you think about it, that's the
Hmm.
closest example to what I'm talking about. You think of how the Roman Empire collapsed. Obese fat asses sitting in Rome, basically depending on servants to do everything, depending on shipping goods from all over the world into Rome. So the Caesars, could eat fat and do nothing. And then, like Nero in the end, watched Rome burn. He didn't give a damn. Okay? The truth of the matter is that's where we're at. Our Nero has basically put a match to Rome, i.e., the modern society, and is burning. And he doesn't give a crap. So you're seeing the
Hmm.
same thing all over again. History repeats itself. Why? Because unfortunately we didn't learn a lesson the first time. What happens when you get to be too big, too intertwined, too many tentacles into everything, that some supply chains are totally messed up because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce is my brother, Tiger. That Yam Ranch thinks it's funny to attack. And I haven't even been on that Discord, you fucking moron.
Yeah. You know what, Yam? You're starting to piss me off. That's why I call you Yuck Ranch. Who the hell is that? Sell your body to who? I don't think my body's worth much. I really don't know where some of these people come from, the toxicity, but I'm not interested.
Yam,
Sorry.
okay, Michelle, let me address Yam. Yam, I do not care what you say, but there are people in my life that I love and I will protect. And why you're bringing my brother into this YouTube bullshit makes no fucking sense to me. He came on this platform with his name, his first and last name. He's not worried. I'm not worried about him, but I don't want him dragged into bullshit that you want to do. I don't fucking care what you say about me.
Yam Ranch, aka Yuck Ranch, aka BBE, you have become a thorn in my side. You have been a thorn in my side since I first saw you. Personally, I don't understand your mentality at all. Now, don't
I
forget.
wasn't in Discord, Yam Ranch. Well,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Michelle.
is BBE in Discord.
Yeah, but I have your Discord muted. I don't go in there.
Oh, you don't go in there. Oh, well, you should listen to what he said to Krista. His,
Well, it's why I don't go in there, Michelle, because I don't want to see it. You know, it is what it is. I don't fucking care.
yeah. But I mean, that brings up another thing too. Is this the surliness? Is they say that manners is the ointment of civility. I don't know about that, but the thing is that people don't seem to have good manners these days.
No, no.
We live in.
And like I said to you, Michelle, you are the only person that can make that decision whether you want these people in your life or not. You know, that's your choice. Nobody can make that decision for you.
Well, if that's the truth, that he's not saying anything, other people are saying things for him, then he needs to get himself speak up. He needs to speak up. And if he's not doing that, I can't, yeah. Speaking of weapons, guys, let's be honest. I didn't want to get into the weapons because I only got about 15 minutes, but I'm going to say this much: is any kind of weapon that uses consumables is going to become useless when the consumables are no longer available. And that means unless you can make your consumables locally. For example, firearms are not going to do you a damn bit of good if you don't have powder, you don't have shot. Okay, you don't have bullet casings if you're using modern shells.
Eventually, yeah, you're right, Michelle. Eventually that stuff will run out, and what do you think the first thing that gun enthusiasts are going to do? They're going to go up, buy up all the bullets, buy up all the weapons. It's not going to last, and you're not going to have factories that reproduce these things. So unless you know how to make your own bullets, there's nothing that stuff will eventually run out, and then it'll be back to people using knives and
muskets,
whatever homemade weapons they can do.
I mean, somebody might be able to locally make gunpowder, or somebody might be able to locally come up with a way of making the lead balls or some kind of a projectile. But I think that right now you still see on the market a lot of market for swords. The sword is not really a very popular seller because everybody wants guns because guns are cool. Well, guns are a ranged weapon, which is great, as is a crossbow. Even a regular recurve bow is a ranged weapon. But the thing is, everybody thinks gun, when they say right to bear arms, means right to bear firearms. Well, no, it says right to bear arms of any kind. It doesn't matter if it's a gun or if it's a crossbow or a mace or even a stiletto or a dagger. It still is armaments. That's what they mean by right to bear arms.
Yeah, I mean, Stan sent me a not an article, but like an ad on a gun that would be perfect for me because I used to have, I think it was a 9mm. I'm thinking that's what it is. My ex talked me into getting it, and it had such a strong kickback. And then when I got divorced and moved, I ended up selling it. But he sent me a gun that he thinks that would be appropriate for me to have. And unfortunately, I probably can find it a lot cheaper. But the one he sent me was like $600, and I can't afford that. So I mean, I have other things that my dad taught me how to defend myself. And I'm teaching my daughter, so I'm not too worried on that aspect. Obviously, a gun is going to be a better weapon in a knife fight, but I mean, that's why I have the plan that in action that if when it comes down to it, to get to a safe place.
One thing in a knife fight, though, or actually Mythbusters have tested this, is that if you bring a gun, if you bring a knife to a gunfight, you're likely to do more crit damage with a knife than the guy with the gun. Because remember, we're talking about the 19th century guns had to be cocked, had to be loaded. By that time, the guy could have stuck you like 3 times with this knife. Okay, you would not have had a choice because you had to cock load, and but the guy could stick you repeatedly with a knife, and it doesn't have to stop and reload his knife because his knife is right there, it's sharp and pointy, and basically all he has to do is keep sticking you. You can't stop him. True. That's why you don't bring. That's why you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, is because it gives you an unfair advantage.
Exactly, and I think most gun clips, most people have. I mean, I know there are ones that hold a lot of bullets, but some of them, eventually they run out and they'll have to reload.
Right.
So I mean, you're right. You're right. It's something like a knife is probably a better option to have. I mean, even if you have a gun, a knife would be a good thing to keep on you as
A
well.
knife would be always a good second tool to have. Okay, I mean it's small enough. You can use it to cut your dinner. You can use it to cut your enemy. So it's, in fact, remember prior to Marie Antoinette and Louis, I mean, the French didn't even have cutlery like we do today. For example, she was the one who came up with the butter knife and the fork, because the fact was they used to come in when they used to use their daggers and the personal knives to eat food, and she didn't want so many sharp weapons at the table.
hmm
Thus, the purpose of having cutlery for customers or for people to eat with that was less lethal. Because obviously you can imagine what dinner used to be like in France before she created the butter knife. Okay, but back to the defense is another weapon that at least we can make locally is arrows. We know the Native Americans had arrows. They had a lot of arrows. They used to make them locally, and they are just as effective as a gun. They're a ranged weapon. You can still shoot them from a distance, and they can still crit. They can still kill you. Okay, very successfully, I should add. Probably maybe more successfully than a bow and arrow. I mean, than a gun, because the bat is silent. It's a little bit more unyieldy, but it's silent. The crossbow was a step up, but it basically still uses similar bolts. Okay, so you can go ahead and crit and kill a person very effectively with a crossbow.
Yeah, I
And
mean you could, but I mean and like what I've seen in the chat, the talk, a gun is probably the better option, especially in the beginning of things. But um, if you don't have a gun, there are other options as well. Noodles wants to come on, Michelle, to talk about what we're talking about.
well, we can. We got about 10 minutes to get the public panel open. Hold on a minute here, guys. Let's get the public panel on. Yeah, we know Yuck Ranch is gonna want to probably show up too. God. I'll get the public panel open. So, well, I'm going to continue to still stand behind what I said about swords. And I still believe in the sword as a weapon. It's also got an
Well, Michelle, I mean, logically, having a sword, if someone enters your home and if you can get the jump on them and the surprise, yeah, a sword would work, a knife would work. But, if you're walking down the street, the gun is obviously going to be the better weapon. There's no denying that, because like Heyman said, distance. Somebody does not have to be up close with you and they can shoot at you. Whether they hit you or not, I guess it depends on how well they're trained on, targets. But
well, one of the things that you got to remember too with a sword is that physically you can see the person's packing heat. Okay, you see a sword on someone's back or on their side, you know that they're packing heat. You're not gonna want to go up against a guy with a sword. Even a short sword can still do a hell of a job on somebody. So I mean, whereas a gun is like hiding in your pocket, but a sword is like big, sharp, and noticeable. But unfortunately, that same problem makes them unyieldy in a very close range, like within a building fight. But if you have a dagger or a knife, that will do the job fine. Noodles is coming on the other panel here. Okay. Go ahead, Noodles.
Yeah, Michelle, I just gotta say one thing. I mean, I know you don't like guns, and I know they scare you and everything like that. I would never expect you to or force you to do something like that. But if you're gonna sit here and tell people that swords are better than guns, then why aren't the Russians invading Ukraine with swords? And how come the Ukrainians are not defending themselves with swords against guns?
yeah,
No, they're
that's fine.
using ranged weapons.
You
Well, that's
know
what a
that
gun is, though, Michelle.
most shootouts take place within 2 to 3 feet. You know that, right? You can check this. You can look this up on the FBI statistics website or whatever. It's within 2 to 3 feet of each other. Like 80 to 90% of all gunfights. So I'm just letting you know that I could point an unloaded gun at your face, and you're going to do whatever I tell you to do, because you're not going to know, and I don't think you're going to want to chance it. If you pull the knife out, by looking at you, I'm pretty sure that I could outrun you. I could you know what I mean? If you pull the gun out, Michelle, I'm not going to outrun that bullet.
Well,
And
I
that's
still,
why
if it comes to issue of a ranged weapon, I still think
it's not. It has nothing to do with ranged weapons. I mean, you're talking about something that could look what happened in Kenosha.
Well, for example, if you want to hit somebody from a
gunfight,
distance, that's what a ranged weapon means.
Yes,
a gun is still good,
rifle,
but then
Michelle.
so is a crossbow, so is a recurve. You can still
Michelle,
do it.
He evaporated that man's bicep within a matter of a millisecond, and that guy was done. He also shot some guy in the chest. The guy dropped right to the ground. You stab someone, Michelle, you're gonna have at least 5 minutes of that person fighting with you. No one wants to be dealing with swords. Nobody wants to be dealing with crossbows or anything like that. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, I still stand behind what I believe, and that's what I believe. That's my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's
I'm just telling you that you're
like I said, like knives and swords are element of the surprise. And if you can't get the jump on somebody, Michelle, the gun is going to be the better option.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, guys, it's 5 minutes to 12. I have a 1 o'clock hair appointment, so I don't want to stay on too much longer because I have to walk down to the salon. I already got the money out yesterday, so I don't have to worry about that. So the money, I already have it.
Michelle, let me ask you a question. When let's say you're walking down to the salon, right, and somebody tries to mug you, right? You call the cops. What do they show up with? Swords or guns?
Well, they probably if the person's still physically there. I mean, I don't.
What do they show up with? Do they show up with a bow and
arrow? They probably show up with their tasers, or they probably show up with a gun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I know that. Same thing with riot gear. Riots. You don't see too many times a police officer is going to show up with a sword, and not that they couldn't. Depending if things get bad enough, if the economy really tanks that we go back into the 15th century, you might see more swords showing up because swords are not regulated like guns are. Okay,
Michelle, I'm a little worried about you, Michelle. I have a high point, Michelle. I'm going to disassemble today. I'm going to send it to you in the mail. You're going to have to watch a YouTube video on how to put it together, but I feel a little bit better. You had it in your house.
Yeah, Michelle, how about we just send you guns in the mail?
Unfortunately, that's illegal in the state of Connecticut. You can't send people guns.
I don't know if that would be a good idea unless you're not going to.
Not a whole gun, Michelle, just pieces of one. You're just going to have to assemble it. Yeah, we can send it to you. You're just going to have to assemble it, Michelle. There may not be a serial number on it either, but don't worry about that.
Actually, Stan CT would be the one to ask about that. What is about gun sales in the mail? I don't know anything about because people do buy guns in the mail. So
I think technically, as a United States citizen, I think you're allowed to make your own firearms. You're allowed to produce your own firearms without a license, depending on what it is. If it's a destructive device, I think you have to get a license. I think you can make a pipe gun.
Yeah, they have schematics.
Why don't you try to make a gun? Why don't you go to Home Depot and make a gun out of a pipe?
Like a potato gun?
I don't know what a pipe dog is, but
no, pipe gun.
I know that's what you meant, but the way it came out in the closed captions was pipe dog. I was like,
yeah, is that true, Noodles? As a United States citizen, you can make your own homemade gun?
Yeah, I can make I know that I can produce my own firearms, but I don't think I could sell them. Like I wouldn't be able to sell them to you. I don't have a dealer's license. If I was to buy a firearm in the state of New Jersey, and then resell it, I could do that.
On the other panel. Hold on a minute. Let me get over there. I'm trying to watch chat on two different panels.
Why do you have two panels, Michelle?
tech-savvy computer nerd.
Oh, it's not daughter.
Whatever. Probably. But anyway, I'm not going to be much longer anyway, guys. But the thing is that the laws are more against gun ownership than they are against sword ownership. However, in the state of Connecticut, I must warn you.
Why don't you get a sword and take it outside, walk down to the salon with your sword and see what happens?
Oh, I know, but you can't even carry a gun outside your body.
Yeah, you
I'm
can.
like,
Open carry, Michelle.
I mean, I cannot
open
walk around Winston with my gun in my hand and go ill. You know, because there's carrying
need
laws
a
about
license.
guns too.
You need a permit, obviously.
Okay.
You need a permit to do it. But I can't believe, Michelle, Connecticut being one of the first original states, that they're so against people owning weapons. That's what I'm kind of getting out of you. You're saying it's so strict there to own weapons?
Yeah.
Or own guns, I mean?
Well, that's because it's a democratically controlled state. That's why. The Democrats are particularly against guns. It's they're totally against the Second Amendment. They don't like it.
Yeah, but even if they're against it, it doesn't mean that the Second Amendment doesn't apply, though. I mean, you can have a state that's against it, but it's still the Second Amendment. I can't see how your state can, limit you on that. I think it's a federal thing. If I'm wrong, Noodle?
We also got things in our books that says that people who are mentally infirm cannot have a gun, even though the Supreme Court has said that is a lot harder to enforce that, because what does mentally infirm mean? I mean, the competency, how do you say who's capable of holding a gun? Well, for a while, a lot of people, they were saying if you were handicapped, you can't have a gun. Why? I mean, why can't a legally blind person have a gun? Because they might accidentally hit the wrong person? That's possible. I don't know. That's a great question. That goes into a whole nother area I'm not going to go into right now because we don't have time to do that. And if we really wanted to, we can cover this on tonight's show. I'm sure somebody might be interested in this topic for tonight's show. You guys?
Well, yeah. Guns are a hot topic, Michelle. I think it's a great topic for you to discuss.
Let's tell the people for tonight's show that their homework assignment is they need to watch the morning show so they know where the night show is going to continuing on from the morning show, so that they can figure this out.
World of Warcraft or something. I mean, and forget all about it.
Cyber assassin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that's another weapon we have now: is cyber attacks, which is something that is another good topic for tonight.
Well, cyber attacks is something that, like, most of us citizens are not able to do. I think we should stick on the basics, guns,
right.
Homemade weapons, stuff like that can protect you if something goes down.
Well, I would say, just wrap it up real quick for the morning show, is that you really need to diversify your armory. You need to consider different kinds of weapons on hand. Just leave it at that. Man, I don't have...
Okay, so Stan says since Sandy Hook, buying guns by regular law-abiding citizen has gotten to be nearly impossible. Easiest way to buy in Connecticut is to have a concealed carry permit. Okay, so that's what they did.
Yeah.
So why don't you get your concealed carry permit? That would be awesome.
Noodle, she may be right, though. She may not be able to get one because she gets SSI and SSD, I believe, and that marks her. It marks her as a mentally ill.
Can you imagine that? Imagine if they told her she couldn't vote because she was on SSI.
Yeah,
that's great.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know about, as I said, I mean, they also have a physical infirmity too, which is registered blind, which is going to also be something that may affect.
You're not fit to participate in a right. I mean, why are you fit to participate in voting? No offense, but like, what makes you fit to participate in voting.
Red, I see you. All right, Red. Oh, this guy is. Who the hell is this person? All
That's
right.
fodder.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get rid of this person. Bye bye. 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 Him with you. Bye bye. Who the hell are you? Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Noodles. I know Michelle's kind of distracted with her panel, but Noodles, I would really love to do a panel with you to talk about, you know, I know Michelle's going to cover it, but one time on my channel about guns and stuff like that.
All right,
Leo, calm down.
Who the hell is this Noodles 1980? I thought that was you talking. No, it's not. Remove this person too.
You're breaking up, Noodles. I'll have Red give you my information and we can discuss it.
Yeah, have Red call me or whatever. Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
All right,
happened?
guys. I am already seeing that this person is. Go ahead, Noodles. Talk.
That's not me, Michelle.
Noodles, Michelle.
All right, guys. Look, this is why we don't have the public panels as much anymore.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Everyone comes in and ruins it. There you go, Michelle.
Get rid of them, Michelle. They're losers.
Silencio.
She did. It only took her
All
5
right.
minutes, but she got it. She figured it out.
Okay.
Get them out of here.
All right. So anyway, yes, Dan CT, that would be a great topic for tonight. Is self-defense, and yeah, I don't know anything about the other laws in the states, but I do know. I don't even know Connecticut's law, but you're more familiar with them. We should talk about that. In Connecticut, how is it the law allow or not allow people who are registered blind to carry guns, but will allow us to carry knives and swords? I'm actually curious about that. So I'd like to cover that.
Great topic, Michelle.
Yeah, so that we'll be covering that tonight. All right, guys, it's 12:06. I have to get ready for my hair appointment. Everybody, I will see you this afternoon. So let me go ahead and send the panels out their merry ways.
All right, Michelle, have fun at your hair appointment.
All right, so end the call for the public panel first. And so I will talk to you probably tonight on the private panel again.
Okay, sounds good, Michelle.
Okay, yep.
All right, bye. Bye, chat.
Bye-bye, guys. Okay. And so that's the topic for tonight, guys. We're going to be talking about firearms and Connecticut regulations regarding firearms for the disabled. Who can carry weapons, who can't carry weapons, what kind of weapons you can carry. Everybody likes particularly talking about firearms, but I want to focus on the non-firearms, but we certainly still need to know what the laws say in your state. Please do check your local laws and your city ordinances. Please understand the Middle Ages, and people thought that everybody could just walk around with a sword in the city. I hate to tell you this, but even back then, there was laws. There were cities that did not allow you to have a sword within the city limits exposed. So, just be aware that it's not a new thing. All right, guys. I'm going to let you go. Talk to you later. Okay? Stay out of trouble. Bye-bye.